Hey, everybody. 2024 has been a year where we wanted to bring you really, really practical things that you can watch an episode and tomorrow implement something you've learned. So stick around. We've got a great tool and a great interview on something that's going to help you increase your sales and your profits.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, Nicole. You
Hey,
didn't run on me. You stayed.
Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Hey, everybody, let me introduce Nicole to you, Nicole Smith. Hey, Nicole is a Temple grad, one of our core awesome universities here in Pennsylvania. She studied organizational development, and she's one of the people that's actually gotten to use a lot of her degree in her profession. She was a working virtual assistant for years in college. She came out, the way we've met is through a common relationship of a law firm. She managed the law firm for a friend attorney of mine. So she was chief of staff. She still sits on the board of directors at that firm. And she's currently East Coast Regional Director for Doxa, which is a really, really cool staffing firm and a VA firm. And so we are going to be talking today about how to effectively use a VA in your business. I know all of my audience wants one, and they're just not sure how to use one. So they're afraid to take that step. So Nicole is going to help us fix that. So, hey, Nicole, just tell us a couple of minutes. I gave the quick introduction. Just give us a couple of minutes, if you would, on how did the company just all come together and you get to move out of that chief of staff position?
Yeah, no, that's great. And a lot of that had to do with having a great team of support that allowed me to do that. You talked on a bit of how I actually owned a VA business in college, believe it or not. And I focused on real estate. And then a really unique opportunity came up to help me, to help a law firm here in Philadelphia really build it out, right? It was still a boutique law firm, but it has grown exponentially over the years. And I still sit on the board of directors over at the law firm, but the goal with myself and the partners of the firm was always to go into business together. So a few years ago, we started working with Doxa VIPs. That's what we call our team members at Doxa, at the law firm. And it became very clear that this was something we wanted to invest in. Doxa really mirrored our values. Our team finally had more time. Our clients got faster, better service. This is, Doxa's a people first organization, which was really, really important to us in whatever we were going to do next. So now, as you mentioned, I'm the East Coast Regional Director for Doxa. And for us, I'm making a huge difference by having a positive effect on revenue for domestic organizations, while also being able to really elevate these qualified and motivated communities around the world.
Awesome. So let's dig right in. I hate to say it, and I'm really on a campaign to change the image of franchising, but you have to change that by doing it a lot better with a lot greater value and a lot greater integrity. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things is for a lot of my audience, which are brokers, emerging brand franchisors, or sometimes larger franchisors who are watching and they're still looking for tips for their teams and things like that. So how do we, people are afraid to make that investment because they've had a bad experience from a supplier. And you've talked a bit about your values and people first. So let's build on that first as we then start to talk about how to best use a VA. So talk about how do you match people up? Do you match people up? How does the clients, how do you as you were describing, clients feeling like they're getting better service and so on. How does that work? Let's get started with how that works.
No, that's great. And so that's actually two separate questions for sure. And the first one is that highly personalized approach so that you hire the right fit, and that, at least, for us at Doxa and for most other firms that are really focused on good recruitment, all of that starts in the front end of the process, really stringent recruitment process, aligning personalities, and most importantly, properly compensating, this incredible talent. So for us, we use a few different tools, right? So we use the culture index when we're hiring. We also use the culture index on the client side. And what this does is it allows us to capture the personality of the individuals that we are bringing on. It also allows us to capture the personalities of our clients, right? Our potential clients. So when I have a lot of people that come to me and they think that a great hire is going to be someone that they just immediately get along with. And that's, absolutely, that should be the case. But there's a lot of things on the front end that you need to think about, right? So if you are having if you yourself are not detail oriented, we really need to pair you with someone that is detail oriented, really being able to fill these gaps of where your weaknesses are. So when you talk about properly aligning, it comes down to not just a personality match, but it comes down to having a qualified individual that also can really elevate, things on the back end that maybe you struggle with. That's going to make for a great virtual assistant. And so for us, recruitment is probably one of our biggest focuses, just because when it's done right and you find a fit, you're building something that's going to last.
And I love that you have a process. Everybody that's watching this, or the majority of the people that are watching, are in the franchise space, and oh my gosh, that's a big part of what franchising is. It's we've developed a process that works. Have confidence in the process, use the process, have confidence in the process. So I love that that's what you're doing. And I get bombarded, I'll tell you, probably once a week in email or on LinkedIn of people who want to give me, these kinds of services. And, it's the next available VA is who I'm going to get. And so I love that you have a process of matching, which just makes all kinds of sense in the world. So let's go maybe a level deeper now. We've got the right person. So what are some highlights or some real tips for getting this started? And then the second follow-up question is really how to effectively operate and work with a VA, because a lot of people haven't ever had an assistant, or in particular, maybe not a virtual one. So give us some tips and some hints to how to get it started, and then how to really maximize that relationship.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great question. And working with offshore talent, is a really, really unique tool for solopreneurs and startups in particular. They really need this solution more than most, because they need to be working, the classic on their business instead of in their business, but they often, really can't afford operation support, so this causes a world of problems in the first couple of years of their journey. So, this is a great investment. And I always, tell folks that if you're going to bring on a VA, you want to start simple. You want to start by having this new team member maybe fully manage your CRM and create a project management system, jump into meetings with you to take the minutes and work on action items, set up all of your appointments. This type of role, when we think about a classic EA or VA, right? This role is really meant to grow. It's meant to transform as this individual learns your business and you learn how to delegate. Things are going to blossom from there. I always say, how many prospects have you lost this year simply because you didn't follow up? With a great VA, that's never going to happen again. There's an initial investment, and that's something that I make sure that my clients know. You need to spend a little bit of time, training and letting this individual learn your business, but once you teach an individual this great VA how to do each of these tasks, maybe that takes 20 minutes of time in the beginning for each task. Now you're saving thousands of hours throughout the year. And so that right there has a very great impact on individuals who are looking to do this. And usually the biggest driver, for hiring, with a borderless approach is those economic benefits. And, while I feel the cost savings are probably the least impressive thing about working with a VA, this is something that really offers a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, and I love I just love how it starts simple. I'll use the word shadow, have them shadowing you in essence, so they start to learn the business. And I love, and I never thought of it this way, but I love that you say that this relationship is meant to grow. So start easy, start simple, start slowly, and then build that relationship and build the confidence in the relationship, and then build the skill or the tasks that you want them to do. So I love that. I think that is awesome. I think that's awesome. A lot of our folks are solopreneurs. So any thoughts on, or maybe all of the customers are solopreneurs? I don't know, but a lot of our folks will be solopreneurs. So anything different or anything specific, maybe ongoing, how to maximize, how does the relationship grow? What kinds of things do you see the virtual talent helping, maybe a solopreneur on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, no, it's again a great question as far as with the solopreneur, like I said, I mean, incredibly helpful, right? There's a huge advantage there for them to really get their operations in order for the first, in the first few years of their journey. For a role like that, it depends on what they're looking for. Are they looking for a classic EA who is going to come in, need very little training to really advance the ball down the field in later terms? And so in that, one of the biggest things that I like to talk about is a full-time model. So it's important, especially for a solopreneur who wants someone that is going to be 10 steps ahead of them at all times to be really effective. If they bring someone on full time, they are always so surprised at the work they didn't even know that they had, right? When they have someone else building their systems for them, keeping them focused, and synergy. I love that you were talking about that, as far as it comes down to trusting this individual. And someone you trust is someone that you can rely on day in, day out to really, again, fill in those gaps where your weaknesses are, have things ready, prepared for your meeting. All of a sudden, these solopreneurs now have all of this time back to be focusing on business development, which is exactly where they need to be. So for a solopreneur, again, as far as a resource, this is probably the best investment that they can make, having someone by their side, holding them accountable.
Do you see some of your talent having what I would call, and I've had over the years when I ran sales departments, they were really more of a very specific sales admin or sales support person, or do you see the need more on the general appointment scheduling and systems tracking and stuff like that? Or is it across the board?
Yeah, it's across the board. So, we're talking very heavily about a EA VA, but we really are a global recruitment firm. So my clients range from a administrative assistant all the way up to a full-time architect. That being said, when we talk about this personalized, customized approach, right, when we are having clients sit for interviews with candidates that we are qualifying for them, one of the biggest parts of that is having a really great job description. And so if you have someone that you know needs to come in and have a strong focus or sales background, that's something you want to talk about at the beginning. This isn't something that has to be completely prescriptive. We want to make sure that the individual that we are aligning you with also has the skill sets that you're going to need. So from a sales perspective, I very often am filling the role of a sales development rep, someone who is doing the cold calling and outreach, is doing other things regarding the lead generation, is setting up appointments for you, getting all of the information needed on those prospects, right? And so all of a sudden you have this lead generation process and doing things that, frankly, I don't know anybody that loves to cold call. So all of these things, when you talk about an ROI, I mean, it's going to have a positive effect, whether you're bringing on an executive assistant that's giving you more time to focus on the business development, or you're like, that is not my strong suit. I am, more of a visionary and sales is not my strong suit. Well, then you have someone that can go in and do that and really line things up in order to be able to make more.
Yeah, when I was active in a Fran Dev role, I really got to the place where I knew what the value of my time was. So audience, I'm going to tell you, part of this is knowing the value of your time, because what I got to a place was there were time consuming parts of my franchise sales process. And I didn't want to do that at my pay rate, so to speak. Yeah. And so hiring someone that is good at that. I mean, I could do it and I was probably good at it, but I didn't like doing it. So I wasn't good at it, Yeah. So finding the person, as you said, that can do those things, has the talent, the ability, the willingness. And there are people who enjoy that, let's say, that piece of the sales process. So audience, you need to know the value of your time, and then you're going to see that the investment of support around you is going to be well worth the investment. So awesome point. Let me just flip the conversation for just a couple of minutes. But what kind of pitfalls? That's the other part of the name of the show is pitfalls and profits. So we've talked about the good side, the profit side. So what are some pitfalls that people should avoid, should be watching for, so they don't fall into them as they start to entertain bringing on some help and then actually doing it? So thoughts on the downsides. What should they be watching out for?
Well, one of the most common mistakes that I see is when a business owner, really thinks this VA is going to come in and be the solution that magically fixes all their bad systems. So yes, a VA is certainly going to enhance your systems. They're going to help you create better systems, but bad systems, poor communication that's already going on in the team, or really bad morale, this isn't going to be solved magically through staffing up. I normally try to offer other solutions first, like EOS or hiring a coach, before they start hiring more individuals that are going to come in, and they're either immediately going to be discouraged in a role and quit, or it's going to prolong for the business owner some of these necessary changes that they need to be making. Another issue I see is folks decide to maybe engage with another company purely due to a significantly lower cost. That doesn't mean that they won't get great talent, believe me, but that should not be their only focus. So for me, a client that's not going to align with our values, when our focus is to truly elevate these communities by being able to provide a whole back end of support, that's a big pitfall. They need to understand what long-term the firms that they're working with to hire offshore talent, what they're doing to support not only the individuals in the system, but also long-term what that's going to affect in their business. Like for us, I always love to say that we're your HR partner, right? This should be with really any VA that you're hiring. Make sure that their hardware, that cybersecurity is being monitored. Make sure that they have, team leaders and managers and IT staff on the background, because the worst problem is you have someone now who is working just like someone is working in Texas, but there's a computer issue. There's, they're having a emergency with their family and they need some HR support. These are all things that having a whole system outside of just the VA is going to make a really big impact on how the business owner can very easily work with a VA.
Awesome. Yeah. Audience, don't go cheap. Again, if you know the value of your time, you can easily recognize what you can afford or not afford. And there's just too many places that the EAs, the VAs get their hands into, that if you go cheap and revolving door with the VAs and stuff, or you get some that don't work well and you got to replace them, it's not worth your time to do all of those things. It's much better to do it right the first time. So that's awesome. That's awesome, Nicole. Hey, I always said, as we kind of wind down, I always ask one final question, and that is there anything we haven't discussed? I pepper you with tons of questions and I do follow-up questions, but is there something that you were hoping to get across, or as we're talking, you go, oh, I gotta remember I want to say this, or I want to explain this before we wrap up the call. So is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience we haven't touched on, haven't questioned you about it? Any thoughts like that you want to be sure that folks take away today?
Absolutely. This is a final thought, but this is something I hear day in and day out. And I hear, people from business owners to, someone at the coffee shop. I worked with a VA and it just wasn't a great experience. And then they just give up on this whole concept of delegating work off of their plates. And so they just continue to do everything themselves, which eventually is going to cause irreversible burnout. And it's certainly going to halt their growth potential. So I always like to ask why, and sometimes hiring a VA just is not going to work for them, right? They aren't at a point of wanting to delegate. They haven't learned how to work remotely, a million reasons. But for those people who are ready to grow, I implore you, give it another try. Whether it was a communication issue that you had the first go around. So hire talent, from another part of the world, or they had an issue because this VA that they were working with, had an opposite schedule as them. So hire someone, like in the Philippines, where they will work on your time, and I'm trying to think of all the things that come to mind. One of the things is they weren't a good fit and they couldn't do what I needed them to do. Yep. So you need to find a company that will qualify talent for you, and what you really, really need, and a good fit. So I really don't know any organization that has gotten too far doing it all alone. And so if you want to try a really great, reliable, VA, at that point, all of a sudden you found this way or the only way I know to really be able to buy more time in the day. And that right there is going to move your business forward. It's also going to significantly improve your life. I have no idea what I would do without my incredible VAs.
Yeah, 100%. I see so many people in this field, solo nature of the franchise development business. And they're just hitting a ceiling and can't break through that ceiling sales wise. And so they need the help. So I'm going to summarize: personalized approach, have a process of matching you, which is key to being sure you get the right people. When you get the right person, you get the right VA, start simple, pull them into the business, let them shadow you. because this relationship is meant to grow, and you need to build some trust with this person. And it will all start, your meeting your expectations is all going to start with knowing what you need. And that means a good scope of work or a great job description. Nicole, it's been awesome having you. Thanks so much for pouring into my audience.
Don, this has been great. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. You bet. Thanks.